Hello, and you're very welcome back to Series 6 of The Public Eye, a 5-part series of podcasts brought to you by Granite Exchange. My name is Sarah Travers, I'm your host, and throughout this series I'll be speaking with local entrepreneurs and business owners to learn more about how their companies have come to be, to gain insight into their growth and find out how they continue to innovate. So wherever you get your podcasts from, remember to keep an eye out for new episodes and subscribe to stay up to date. Well, today I'm really delighted to be joined by Tanya McGeehan, Managing Director of MCG Investments Limited. Tanya, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. Delighted to be here.
Now, before we begin, I'm going to give a little bit of background into your business. MCG Investments is Director Tanya McGeehan's second property-focused firm. It was her move into the family trade that first sparked her passion for property. MCG Investments, which specialises in residential property investment opportunities in Northern Ireland, offers a range of services, including sourcing, acquiring and refurbishing buy-to-let properties and delivering extensive residential refurbishments for resale, working alongside investors and joint venture partners. It's an incredible story, and Tanya has built up an amazing portfolio throughout her career and is now recognised as one of Northern Ireland's leading female entrepreneurs. Can you believe all of this, Tanya? Because you and I know each other from way back, but you have achieved so much in such a short time.
Yeah, well, I mean, that last statement, I'm not sure whether I would necessarily agree with that one or not. Depends who you're speaking to. But, and sometimes I do have to pinch myself because, you know, I am probably my worst critic and wouldn't necessarily say that I have achieved a lot of success. But at the same time, when I do look back at where we started, we have come so far, and it has been an unbelievable journey.
So tell us about how it all started, because it started with the family business.
Yes, it did. So, you know, it's a bit of the story. It's a sad story that starts a very sad story for my family. But it's like, out of everything, you have a positive outcome in lots of bad situations. So it started with my father, unfortunately, falling unwell, and then has since passed away almost 10 years ago now. Actually, this March he'll be gone 10 years. And my dad owned his own property business, and when he got sick, my mum had asked if I would be able to come in and help her run the company, because, say, just due to his illness, he wasn't able to continue on managing it himself. So in 2009, I started to work in the family business, and I still work in that family business to this day. It's very much my mum's business, but I work and help her run it. And so it's through that pathway that I found my love for property. And after a number of years, decided to set up my own company, which is, I can't believe I'm saying this, but some 5 years ago. And at that stage, my love for property, which I had identified through the previous years, was more in the refurbishment side of things. So obviously with my parents' rental portfolio business, you obviously have to keep upgrading properties and modernising them, and etc. And so that's how I got the introduction.
So that's what your parents' business was rental properties?
It was a portfolio of rental properties, still is, yes, and there was some land development in that as well.
So give us a plug, what's the name of the business?
Well, it's now under just my mum's, Jeanette Duffy Properties, so that's in my mum's business. It's no longer a company, it's under her sole name. And so, yes, through the refurbishments of the properties, that's where I found that love of converting a property and seeing the big, massive transformation from it being a distressed house to a beautiful family home. And that's the part of the business, the property industry, that I really wanted to pursue. And so I had no big ambitions to become a property tycoon as such. I simply wanted to do something that I really enjoyed and, you know, literally changed my income from one wage in a job that I didn't love to another income stream. And so that's how it started off.
So 5 years ago, really, you took the plunge. Already, you know, you've mentioned that you don't even see yourself as, when I described you as one of Northern Ireland's leading female entrepreneurs, it's like, is that really me?
That's not me.
You know, how would you have seen yourself before that? Because I actually know your family, and I knew, you know, I met you actually when your daddy had just passed away, because he had dementia, as did my dad, and we met on that dementia journey, and organised a big fundraiser. Your wonderful family, your mum Jeanette, and your amazing sisters. You're just such an incredible family. And, you know, back then, I suppose you would have said to me, oh, I'm pretty much, you know, I'm a mum, and I have my family and they mean a lot to me. Tell me about what happened then with moving on and going, do you know what, I'm going to do this.
Oh my goodness, this is actually such a funny story. And like my sisters, particularly my sister Lisa, would literally love this conversation, because you know, a lot of Lisa and Stephen, my husband, would say that I have transformed an awful lot in the last number of years through my business. Prior to that, I would say from a business perspective, I was quite lost. Yes, I would definitely say I was very lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
You were the eldest of the four girls.
I'm the eldest, yes, of the four girls, and I was married first, and I had my children straight away, and so family and the children was the focus, and there was no such thing as a career. There was a job, but it was a job just like 9 to 5, means to an end. There was no big career with it, whereas my other three sisters all had very well established careers and were very ambitious career women, and still are to this day. And so out of the four of us, I suppose I always felt a wee bit lost in that regard, because I didn't have a career of my own. I didn't have a particular career pathway that I was passionate about, and I always felt that there was something missing from me, and that did really always knock my confidence. And most people that know me, especially from the outside, unless you know me really well, would think that I'm overconfident, very confident, and for people that know me well know that that's not actually the real me. And so I would have been lacking a lot of confidence for many years. And I always remember one event that Lisa and I went to when I was just starting out in my own business. So we're talking 5 years ago, and it was I think it was International Female Women's Day, and we were at an event in the Lyric Theatre, and again, it was a female event. I can't remember now if it was Women in Business or
I think I was probably there too.
You might have been there, is right. And so we had to do, you know, like the speed networking at the table, and you had to turn around to the person to, you know, to your left or your right, to introduce yourself and give a little bit of a 30-second, you know, the elevator pitch nearly as to who you are. And Lisa was sitting beside me, and she had turned to the lady at the other side of her, but she was listening to her lady, but also one ear was listening to my intro to the other person, and she actually nearly started nipping me under the table to stop me in my stride, because it was like career suicide. I started, instead of introducing just who I am and believing in what I was doing, I started to say, well, my daddy got sick and my mummy wanted me to come in and help her with business, so I'm kind of doing that and I'm kind of doing this. So,
and in a way, you started the podcast doing that today.
Oh, did I?
But you know, that's so important as to how it happened. And sometimes I suppose it takes an outsider to look in and see your strength. So, you know, you were there as the eldest daughter, helping with a family business. Your late father became ill with early onset dementia at such a young age.
53.
I mean, that's incredible.
Really young.
So your mum and your dad needed you to step into that breach. It mightn't have been the career that you'd chosen, but you saw what needed to be done.
Yes.
And you stepped in and you were there for that time.
Yes.
So, you know, when I hear a completely different story of somebody who's quite selfless and who knows what needs to be done and steps into the breach and have done it brilliantly.
Yeah.
However, fast forward, having the babies, getting up a bit, and there's that feeling inside that I never quite had that career. Now is your time.
That's correct. Absolutely. That's exactly how I feel, because my kids are older. They still need their mum and dad, but they're not as dependent on it as they previously were. So I do feel like it is my time now that I can pursue this career path for me.
And there might be other people listening to this who feel that maybe they've missed their opportunity. They should have done it when they're younger. I mean, you are young. Oh. How old are you now? I know I'm not supposed to
coming
ask
up on the old 45, Sarah.
Well, hello. So at 40, that kind of I really think that you come into your prime at that age.
Yes.
I think you know who you are. You know you've still got, if you're going to do something, you've
Yes.
got to get on with it.
Oh yes, I definitely believe that actually, as you enter your 40s, that's actually the best words to describe it. You know who you are more in your 40s. In your 30s, you're still trying to figure that out, and most people are maybe growing a family or they're getting married, and so you're still not really realising and finding out who you as an individual are. Because yes, we have all the labels. You're a mum, you're a daughter, you're a sister, you're a wife. All a lot of labels and a lot of responsibility. But then there's just you as an individual. And for me, my business allows me to be Tanya as an individual, not with all the other labels with it. And so that's so important to me. And definitely anybody listening in, I would say age is absolutely irrelevant. It's about how much you want it and how much you're prepared to go out and look for it. And yeah, you can do it at any age.
This podcast is sponsored by Granite Legal Services, a niche business and immigration law practice located in the heart of Newry City. Granite Legal Services provides legal advice to both individuals and companies alike across a wide range of industries, from employment, commercial or corporate law matters to immigration law. Granite Legal Services focuses on providing legally sound, practical advice to its clients. To get in touch, visit www.granitelegalservices.co.uk or contact 028 3026 2200. That's so interesting because I run with my own business resilience courses for businesses.
Yes.
And I did a fabulous session just yesterday with a group of women from all ages, but mostly young women, maybe in their kind of early career stage.
Okay.
And we were goal setting, for the year ahead. And some people are, oh goodness, some wanted to be, way further forward than they were. And others were going, oh, I don't set myself goals because I don't want to be disappointed. But so many of their goals were aligned to their roles. Yeah. So I want to be a better partner, a better wife, a better mother, it was all sort of tied into the label, as you said. So that's so interesting. And I said, right, strip all of that back. Actually, it's not being selfish, but what do you want?
Yeah.
Why do you want it? And what actions can you take to get it?
You can be all. You can do it all. You don't have to feel like you're sacrificing your responsibilities as a mother or as a wife or a daughter, etc. You can do all of that, but it's so important that you remember to do stuff that's important to you yourself, because you'll only look back with regret. And that's one thing I've always felt so important through my the process with my dad and his illness, is that we never had any regrets. And I think life is too short to have regrets. So if there's anybody out there with any kind of a burning desire, there's no such thing, and this is even in property, there is no such thing as the perfect time. You don't wait for the perfect time. You just get up and you start and you do it tomorrow, because life is just passing us all by too quickly, and you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. So to me, don't have regrets. And I do believe in that. You should at least try something and not be afraid of failing. It's better to have tried and failed than not to have tried at all. Take the risk and believe in yourself and just get out there and try.
I've just realised that I actually set up my own business at exactly the same age as
Really?
you, after working for other people forever and a day. And but there you go, there must be something. And I'd lost my dad, who had developed dementia at a young age, and he was older than your dad now, but 62. And then I think of all the things that he wanted to achieve, all the things he and Mummy wanted to do, and then he was gone at 67. And it is a wake-up call, isn't it?
Big time. It's a massive wake-up call, and my dad was the same. Now, my mum and dad had a great life, thankfully, and they did enjoy it, and they did great holidays and great friends, but they were still only getting started. They had so much more that they wanted to do. So from that perspective, it's a case of, stop putting off till tomorrow what you can do today.
So take me back to the Lyric Theatre after Lisa's nipping you and telling you to stop talking about the sad story and actually say, this is who I am and this is what I want to do. Where did it go next?
Well, at that stage, I essentially was investing in property. So I'm not a big fan of titles, as a lot of people know. So, I was a property investor, if you like. That is the pathway and the career path that I was starting to pursue. But I didn't want to come out and say out loud, I'm a property investor. It just sounded okay, I'm being a bit of a fraud here, and that's not who I am, and I didn't own it, and I just couldn't say it out loud. So, I very much can say it out loud now because I'm actively doing that. So I am a property investor and developer, and I'm delighted to be one. But it does take time, that you or accept that and you realise that that is who you are and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think partly it's maybe down to the fact that it's quite a male orientated industry, and then a female coming into it. I mean, there are lots and lots of females that work in the property industry as employees, but there's not too many female entrepreneurs that are actually running their own property business as such. And so I think that's where I kind of maybe always had the imposter syndrome in me, and I still have that, and there's no doubt about that. So again, I don't think that ever goes away.
But you can hold your head up high
Yes.
now. You can look somebody in the eye and say, I am a property investor.
Absolutely.
And I have my own business and it's successful.
Yes, and it's doing great.
And would I be having this conversation with the man about, can you do? No.
Well, I mean, no,
Maybe.
because
That's
they
a bit
maybe
of a sweeping statement, but
Well, they maybe suffer it, but I don't think they come out loud and admit it. So, I'm sure there's plenty of men out there, if they're being completely honest, will admit that they have had imposter syndrome at some point in time as well. In meetings, I think it's very natural. It's just something that we're all afraid to admit. But yeah, I mean, I had it lots of times and I still do have it. But that's also a good thing, because if you're having imposter syndrome, it means that that you're not the most successful person in the room. There's somebody else doing bigger, better things than you, which means that you're always learning.
So you started small, did you? You were
Very small.
Okay, so do you remember the first property that you
Yes,
purchased?
I do. It was in Ravenhill Avenue, actually, on the same street as my sister Lisa lives in now, 85 Ravenhill Avenue, and I bought it in auction. And I have to say, I'm glad to say that I made money on it. I just about broke even, so I did make money on it, didn't lose money, which was great, given that it was my first one. But again, I did learn a valuable lesson with that one, because I was renovating that house like I was about to move into it. So it was like my home.
High spec.
And you don't do that. So you can't renovate a home to the same extent and degree that you would to your own house. It can't be done like that. But that's fine. That's part of the learning experience, But I remember that one really well. I loved it.
So whoever got into that one must have been delighted.
Oh, it had the most amazing walk-in wardrobe I would love for myself. It was fabulous.
However, having high standards is a good thing too. And do you not think that that's what customers want?
Oh, absolutely. And I do work to high standards, and I expect high standards. I set them for myself, and then I expect them of my team and the staff. And my team, who are absolutely brilliant, and I'm referring to as well as my own immediate staff, but also my trades team that do all the actual hard work on the ground in the refurbishments. I've had the same team since I started MCG, and we all work very well together. And as anybody listening in will know, one of the biggest problems with anybody doing a refurb, most people have done some kind of refurbishment to their own homes, or an extension, or a new build, whatever the case may be. And 99% of the stress comes from dealing with tradesmen and builders. No offence to any builders or tradesmen listening in, but you also have pain coming from people like us who are the client as well. So it's a two-way street. But a lot of the time, that is a stressful relationship.
And I always see on social media, you're always looking for tradesmen, you're always looking for builders. You need to develop more relationships.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am doing that, and that's simply because a reflection of the volume of work that we're doing. And so we've a lot more projects that are on the go, so we need more teams and for larger projects. But I still have an absolutely brilliant main core local team that I use all the time, and they're absolutely excellent, and they're so loyal and reliable, and we have mutual respect. And I think that's why we all work together really well, and they all now know the standards that I want to work to and what I expect, and they kind of nearly know my spec of end finish, for example, that I want to achieve. But I need to always have other team there as well for other projects that or in case some of my guys are simply overwhelmed and have too much work and don't have the capacity. So you always need a second team as well.
So after Ravenhill, you've grown, you're talking about a team now. Tell me about the business. Where is it at now? In the introduction, I talked about the buy-to-let, and I also talked about people who want to buy. So where are you at now? What are you doing? What's the portfolio?
Yeah, well, the core services for MCG Investments are that we run a consultancy side of the business. So that consultancy service is, as you have mentioned, it's the sourcing side of the business, where clients will recruit us as a consultant to help them acquire buy-to-let investment properties. So there are lots of people out there who want to invest in a property for various reasons, whether it be to supplement existing income, whether it be to have a property for their children to live in when they go to university, or maybe for like legacy to leave to their children. It's maybe also to kind of supplement pension later in life, and they want to start acquiring properties that can grow and achieve capital growth and value over the next 10, 15, 20 years. So most people, number one, are time poor and don't have the time to do that. Number two, don't have the knowledge or the experience of to where to start. And you know, there are often a lot of investment properties that are bought and they're not good deals and they weren't bought correctly. So you do need to know what you're doing. It's not as simple as just going out and looking at a property and buying it. So our consultancy service provides a one-stop shop. We do everything. So we've got the experience and the knowledge of the areas. We've got the team on the ground. We know the areas, we know the numbers, and so then we can go out and source and acquire the property for our clients. We oversee the conveyance and process of it. We make sure that they're appointed to the right management and letting agent and get the right tenant who's vetted, so that by the time we step away, they've got themselves a new investment property with a tenant already in place. So that service has been really grown in the last 18 months, and we foresee that to continue growing this year. Investing in property is a great investment all round. You can't really beat investing in bricks and mortar, and it's a sound investment. So with that, there are so many people out there that are looking to invest in property, and so there are not too many services in Northern Ireland that are doing and offering the service that we do. So that's one side of it, and then we do, as you've mentioned, we also engage in the buy to flip, which is restoring distressed properties. We do that just as a company ourselves, and we do it through joint ventures with private clients. Again, for people that are time poor and experience poor. So they don't want to start working and refurbishing a property without the right team on the ground, without knowing the right areas, knowing the numbers. So a joint venture is a great way for them to be able to piggyback off somebody like ourselves who've got the experience and have done it for years, and yet then they get to avail of the capital increase in value that we add to the properties. We also have a different arm to the business as well. It's a separate company called TE Property, which is myself and another female business partner, and that's very much our land and new build development side of the business. That's quite a new side of the business, which we've only really started working on in the last 9 months. And so through TE Property with my business partner Elizabeth, we have acquired a number of different apartment schemes, which we're at different stages of at the moment. So 2022 is very much about growing the development side of the business, which is very challenging in Northern Ireland for various different reasons to do with planning issues and other such challenges with wastewater, etc. But that's an extremely exciting side of the business, one which I absolutely love, and I'm delighted. So
and how will that look? Who would be will you be selling directly to
the public?
The public, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So those will be, for example, apartment scheme that will be selling on the market to the public. So as you know, there's a huge shortage of housing in Northern Ireland. So it's about trying to, I suppose, increase that supply of housing.
A very exciting world too when you're looking at sustainable and responsible construction as well. Would you be all into the eco-friendly?
Yes, we will. That's where we'll very much rely on the experts. Like the whole industry of property is a minefield, and you cannot be an expert in every area of it, which is why for me it's about the entire larger team that we work with, and then we bring in the experts that know exactly what are the best types of materials, the most environmental friendly, the most efficient types of materials to use when you're constructing a building. And I have to say, I'm a huge believer in working with the best people in their particular field and growing really good relationships and network, and we have been doing that. Yeah, one of the things we have done in the last number of years and been working really hard on is growing our team of professionals that we work with. So whether that be engineers, quantity surveyors, architects, planning consultants, all of those different professionals play a very vital role in property development. So I certainly am not going to sit here and claim to be an engineer and know everything about the requirements of engineering in a property. I don't, which is why then we recruit the expert in that field. So in terms of being more eco-friendly, we have recruited the right professionals who know that industry well, and then we can incorporate that into our design.
It's incredibly exciting, Tanya, and just give us a sense of the property market in Northern Ireland at the minute. I mean, I know you and I had a conversation before Christmas and you were saying that property in Northern Ireland is so sought after at the minute.
Yes.
From people everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. We're in Northern Ireland's an absolutely great place to be for in the property market. I mean, no matter what agent you'll speak to, the majority of them will tell you that their biggest problem and biggest challenge at the moment is stock. They just can't get the stock to meet the demand. So, your demand is very much outstripping the supply of properties in Northern Ireland, and particularly properties of a good standard finish. There is a lot of first-time demand from first-time buyers. So that is set to continue. I know there's an awful lot of challenges going on in the world at the moment between inflation obviously going through the roof, with particularly building materials, the costs going through the roof, problems with labour shortages, drivers. It's just constantly something new in the news that's very negative. But we all have to try our bit and just kind of try to nearly drown out the negativity out there and just keep pushing forward as much as we can, because there are people out there who want to buy homes, there are people out there who want to build homes, and if we can just get around the other challenges and I just think it's a really exciting time in Northern Ireland to be involved in property.
And you've really established yourself in this market and in this world. I mean, even if anybody wants to check out Tanya's social media accounts, you're very much at the forefront, and you're calling it out too. You're lobbying, you're informing. It's not just look at this great house. I flipped this today. Haven't chosen lovely carpets. It is literally like, this needs to be done, and our politicians need to step up and sort this out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm certainly not up in the steps of Stormont, lobbying right in front of them. But I mean, I am very much all on for, I suppose, speaking out and vocalising the challenges that we do have, and so much so that actually I'm due to start my third series of webinars now in February, one in February, March and April of this year. I actually started these in the very beginning of lockdown in April 2020, when everybody was turning to virtual meetings and to online seminars and so forth and webinars. So we decided to jump on that bandwagon too, and we hosted them back then. We did another series last January, February, and again, as I said, we're doing another now in February, March and April. And in each of those webinars, we're bringing experts from different areas and different sectors of the property industry to talk about their experiences on the ground in Northern Ireland. So, for example, we have got Carol McTaggart, who's Chief Executive of Clanmill Housing Association, is going to be coming on speaking about the current position and situation with social housing in Northern Ireland, which is obviously a very, very important issue, and there are so many people out there really struggling to get a home. So it'll be great to hear from Carl. We've got the likes of Jordan Buchanan, who's a chief economist at Property Pal, who is very much obviously has finger on the pulse of everything to do with property in Northern Ireland, and he's been a great supporter of MCG Investments and has been on a guest on our previous two webinars. And is again coming on to this one. So through those webinars, it's a great way to educate and inform people about what is actually happening on the ground in different sectors of the property industry. So I suppose, yes, from that point of view, we definitely want to do more than just go out and do development for ourselves. It is about educating and providing further information to people, because it is a minefield.
It's really interesting too, and when if you're not au fait with it, or you're even interested in getting involved, it's so good to understand first of all before you take on something like the responsibility of buying a property.
Absolutely.
You've already mentioned that, in terms of advice for people, if they're thinking of flipping a house or, refurbing a house, that you don't design it as if you're going to move into it. But what other piece of advice would you give to anybody out there who's maybe thinking of doing this? I mean, we have the most beautiful buildings around Northern Ireland. It makes me so sad to see beautiful old family homes lying in derelict, totally. So what advice? And it would be so great to be able to do that, but you think, oh my goodness, I couldn't take that on.
I know. Well, I absolutely agree with you, Sarah. I mean, I drive around and sometimes nearly crash the car looking at the fabulous homes that are in complete and utter such sad, distressed states. And I actually think this actually frustrates me to a certain extent, because we have, a massive shortage of supply of homes, yet we have so many derelict, vacant properties lying around the country, that the likes of people like myself would absolutely love the opportunity and would get stuck in there and be able to transform to a beautiful family home. And I know it's only small numbers, but every little bit will help contribute towards the overall lack of supply of good quality homes. So for me, that's what our government should be helping us to start doing.
We need to start a campaign.
Exactly, because if we can't build new homes because of the situation with our wastewater capacity, which is completely at full capacity now, then let's start transforming the existing buildings that are already there
and connected to the networks and the sewers.
They're
and
already
everything,
connected.
the pipes.
So absolutely. And I have tried so many times to actually find out the names of the owners of a number of derelict properties to see if we can buy the property and convert it. And actually, that
even into flats or whatever.
Anything. There's so many different options. There's so many options. So we have tried, my team, through Land Registry, to contact and find out who the owners of so many of these derelict homes are. And it's actually shocking how many have absolutely no record of owners through Land Registry.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's terrible, because that would be
a good TV programme. Should we pitch that to
Sarah,
the BBC? That would be a
tell
good
me
one.
where and when. I'm there.
Property investigators.
I'm telling you, it's terrible.
That is
and
sad.
so many beautiful
So sad.
homes. It
I
really,
know.
and I mean, if I was doing that alone, I wouldn't even start with the land development, because there's enough people out there doing developing of new homes. So I would quite happily take on the existing distressed homes. I love that. But back to your question about anyone that was thinking of going out and refurbishing and flipping their own home. I suppose two of the main key ingredients. Number one, and I'm going to put it as number one, is your team. The tradesmen team. They're absolutely and utterly crucial to it, because if you don't have the right team, it's going to drag on. It's going to take twice as long as it should, and a buy to flip, the very nature of that type of model, it's in, out, it's about turning it around quickly. Getting it back on the market again and getting it sold. So if you're doing it you don't have the right team and you don't have the right people, and God forbid, I'm going to say, if you try to do it yourself, which is a big no. Even if you're a painter, if you're a joiner by trade, do not try to do your own refurbs. Just don't.
This is not upcycling your furniture. This is much bigger than that.
Yeah, it is. And also, if you're a joiner or a tiler or whatever the case may be, you've got your own job. Don't try to do it in the evenings or the weekends. It's going to take you 3 times longer. Just pay for somebody to come in and do it. It'll, you'll gain in the long run. So that's number one. They're the most vital ingredient to it. Number 2, you need to know your numbers, and I can't stress that enough. You need to know your numbers inside out, upside down. You need to build in contingency, because no matter how careful you try, once you strip back a distressed property, you do not know what is under those floorboards or what's behind those walls, and you've got to be ready for the unforeseen, and you've got to have contingency built in to allow for something. For example, I refurbished a property last year, which I have posted about on social media, so some people may have already seen this, and learned a hard lesson, whereby whenever I was viewing the property, I didn't check the pathway around the house to see whether it was large enough to get at least even a wheelbarrow around, and it wasn't even wide enough to get a wheelbarrow around the side of the house. I kid you not. So much so that after exploring so many options, and I mean I tried every type of engineer, landscaper, gardener, I end up having to close the whole main road, put an application into the roads traffic, and I had to get a crane to lift a digger over the roof of the property to do the landscaping of the garden at the back, which was like a jungle, and then I had to bring the same crane back to lift the digger back again at the end.
You
of the
were popular with the others in the street.
Oh,
I'm
yes,
sure.
they loved that. Can you imagine? So that's how extreme.
I'm not thinking about the wheelie bin and how you get that around
the bin.
back.
I know you couldn't. I mean, I didn't even fit a wheelbarrow. It was that narrow.
Well, there you go. There's a lesson.
A lesson.
So
I
that's
will
number
always.
2.
That's it. So yeah, but these things happen, and that's part and parcel of it.
Yeah, you learn the hard way, don't you? But that advice is wonderful in itself.
Absolutely.
We're nearly finished now, Tanya. You'll be glad to hear. But, what strikes me is that you don't even realise your impact, the fact that you're an inspiration to others listening, and me right now, you're an inspiration to me. You know your stuff. You know it inside and out. You're definitely not an imposter in this game. You're absolutely there, and rightfully so. Where do you get that drive from? Because I know you also love your extreme challenges. Tell me about this David Goggins challenge you did recently.
Oh gosh, I think I'm still scarred from that one. Coming up on nearly a year. I did that last March. Oh, I don't know where.
So who's David Goggins then?
So David Goggins is an extreme athlete from America. Was a Navy SEAL, and then is just into extreme challenges and about pushing your body as much as you possibly can.
I'm tired already.
He's absolutely, completely an inspiration, and has a fabulous podcast and fabulous books. So you should definitely give them a read or listen in on the audiobook. It's fantastic. So it was around last February, and I go to CrossFit, and it was the gyms, as you know, were closed last year after Christmas, and so Stephen and I were just working out on a daily basis at home as we normally do when we weren't able to go to the gym, and I injured my shoulder during one of the sessions, so I couldn't do any of the weight training. And I used to run many years ago and had stopped that, just kind of fell out of love with it. I think I had sickened myself because I had done about 6 half marathons back to back over a period of years, and then so I couldn't do the weight training, and so I thought I'll get back out and do a bit of running just to keep myself occupied and keep myself in training. And so I started to run. I remember it was the 15th of February, and then a friend of mine in my property network from across the water had actually said that she was doing this David Goggins challenge 4x4 by 48, and I'd never heard of it. So
4x4 by 48.
4x4 by 48. So it's 4 miles every 4 hours for a period of 48 hours. Day and night. So let's say you start at midnight, so it's 12, 4, 8, so forth, right through till the 48 hours are up. 4 miles run. Now a 4 mile run is not a big run. Most people will be able to manage that, certainly with any training, but it's the constant, so it's obviously 12 runs.
I'm glad you did that for me, and then I was getting a bit confused.
12 runs for 4 miles each time, but it's not the run itself, it's the lack of sleep.
Yes. So you don't sleep, you're literally waking yourself up to do that.
That's it, and you're constantly, and at that time we did it, I say at the last weekend of March, and the weather was terrible, so we went through every season. We had rain, we had snow, and we had sunshine.
Did you have tears?
Oh, we had a lot of tears, yeah, we did. We had a lot of tears. It definitely was my hardest challenge to date, and I thought that the half marathons prior to that were difficult, but this was a crazy challenge. But you know what, it was a great lesson of resilience, because it was exceptionally difficult, but I mean, we survived it. We did it. We were fine. I got up the next morning, and life went on, and that was over, and you did it. So I'm absolutely delighted I did it. I did say and promise Stephen and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law Mark and Nicola works with us, also took part and did it as well, and I promised them after that I wouldn't have any more crazy harebrained ideas about such challenges, so I haven't mentioned another challenge since, but we're only at the start.
Watch this space, everybody. I think
it's only January.
So you've got that drive there, you go for something and you give it your all. The purpose of this podcast is to inspire existing business owners and ambitious entrepreneurs to grow their business by offering insight into the success of businesses such as your own, such as MCG Investment Limited. What, finally, advice would you give to those who may have a business idea but have no idea where to begin or are unsure as to whether the risk is worth taking?
Well, first of all, the risk is worth taking every time. Anytime you even doubt that, put it to the back of your mind and tell yourself it's worth taking, because, as I said earlier, you're better to have failed and tried than never to have tried at all, because life is too short. And yes, it's comfortable to stay in the safe zone and not take any risks, but you're not living. So you need to try anything at all that you are in any way deeply passionate about, or even have a small idea of it. Get out there and try it. Why not? And you must believe in yourself. So first of all, I can't be stronger to say, take the risk and just go and do it today. How do you go about doing it, and what advice would I give is I would say talk to as many possible people as you can. Talk to everybody. Be a question asker. Ask questions of absolutely everyone. Because through that, through asking people, through speaking to people, that is how you will learn. I'm a big believer, and I've got this ethos from somebody that I actually massively look up to, and Sarah, who you know well as well, is Mairead Mackle. I think Mairead, and I've stole this from her and I've used it many a time, but she is the person that said it, where I heard it first at a Women in Business conference, where she said that her thing was that she just said, yes, I can, to everything, and figured out how to do it later. And that has always resonated with me, and I fully believe in that as well. So say yes to every opportunity that you can get in front of, and then figure out how to do it after that, by asking the right people, by speaking to people, by going and meeting people for a coffee. Northern Ireland is a very small area, and most people want to see people doing well and are quite happy to give you good advice. So the likes of myself, anybody wants to ever come and ask me tips on how I did anything, feel free, because I don't know the answer to everything. I struggled, but I did keep going and meeting people for coffee, reaching out to them on social media, asking if they would help me with, to explore how do I do X, Y or Z. And so for me, forming relationships and collaborations is how you move on, and it's just baby steps, one day at a time.
And lovely to hear that you want to give back to and help others. It is that mentorship that's so crucial.
Absolutely.
Tanya, it's been a joy as always. Thank you so much for joining me today. And everyone, you can join me for another fantastic episode of the Public Eye Podcast very soon. Wherever you get your podcasts from, don't forget to subscribe and follow to stay up to date. See you soon.
Thank you.
This podcast was recorded in Granite Podcast Studio. Interested in starting up your own podcast but don't know how? Granite Podcast Studio can help. Record your podcast in our state-of-the-art studio, which is based in the heart of Newry City. Our studio has cutting-edge and user-friendly technology and can seat up to 4 people. We also provide an editing service, where our team using your guidance and editing notes to provide you with a flawless finished product, leaving your listeners wanting more. For more information on how you can get started, visit www.granitepodcaststudio.com.